So, I have a real question. A real question that I'm asking myself. And I'm going to talk through. Because why not? If you're like a lot of people in this whole world, but mostly America, you probably watched at least parts or part of the Super Bowl and at least heard or watched some of the halftime show. So you probably know some of the discourse. And I think one of the most interesting takes I've heard on it was a guy who's like academic rap critic, like a white older guy who actually has studied the history of rap and like knows all that stuff. And he said that he watched it with his young daughter, and she said it was the best Super Bowl show ever. And then you have all these like old white guys that are like, what is this? I don't like it. And he said that's exactly what you need for the Super Bowl performance. You need somebody that appeals to the younger generation if you want to keep them engaged. And I've also heard it pointed out that unlike a lot of Super Bowl performers, Kendrick is sort of at the top of his game. Whereas a lot of past Super Bowl performers are people who, maybe are doing well, but maybe their peak fame has passed. People already know all of their songs. They have a huge back catalog of bangers to pick through. And Kendrick mostly played newer material. There was a little bit of not even his oldest stuff, stuff that was sort of from the middle of his career. And I think that's genius because I think that it makes me want to listen to his new album. I love rap, but the part of rap that I like is somewhat narrow. I grew up middle of nowhere, West Virginia, and all the little counterculture kids. We excuse me. It didn't matter what subculture you were interested in, because I was like way into like punk rock and like classic rock, especially Southern classic rock. Whereas my best friend was totally a goth and loved goth music, and stuff that I like. She liked Susie and the Banshees. I like NoFX, and we liked each other's music because you listen to your friend's music, like that happens when you're a teenager. And so we get a lot of cross-pollination between different, sort of sub-communities. People have interest in different sub-communities. And that we were all sort of called the skaters, although a lot of us didn't actually skate. We just hung out with people who skated or knew people who skated or something, That's just what counterculture was. We were all the queer people, the people who liked rap or punk or, not country music or mainstream top 10 radio shit, And so my experience with rap is what I saw on MTV and then what I experienced through other people. So it was heavily influenced by Dr. Dre and all of what he had, his people. Listened to a lot of Dre, Snoop, Eminem, D12, I actually even have seen D12 live, but it was at Warped Tour, so I don't know. Does that really even count? um, excuse me. Sorry. And later, I was heavily influenced by Dungeon Family and to a certain extent Outcast, but for some reason more Dungeon Family. And again, this is because I'm absorbing what other people are listening to, and so I'm hanging out with someone smoking weed, and they're listening to that record over and over again, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the Dungeon Family is amazing. Like, to this day, if I hear 6 minutes, like anyone say 6 minutes, in my head I'm like, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, Dungeon Family, it's on. Like, you know, it's hard for me to get into music. I don't hear songs the same way anyone else does. I have a partial hearing loss, and so certain pitches I don't hear very well. And what that means is it's a lot easier for me to listen to songs that I know, because if I can't hear parts of it, my brain can fill in those parts because it knows what they're supposed to be. That's why I'm not a big fan of live music generally. I like my music to be sort of predictable, you know? And it's very rare for me to listen to a song for the first time and love it. You know, I might go, yeah, that's pretty all right. But I'm not generally going to like music until I've heard it a bunch of times. And it's since I don't like music that's new, I don't usually seek it out. And so it has to be a way for me to get kind of into someone before I really, like, will give them a chance. And Kendrick Lamar got that in for me this summer. If you watched my like end of the year video where I talked about like the best YouTube videos of the year, I missed a bunch. Of course, make sure that you check. Like, I think I put in the description some of the other ones that I missed, but it was still like way too long. But I talked about FD Signifier's video on the Drake Kendrick rap battle. And it really is a masterpiece. Like, I have watched it over and over again. FD Signifier has a tone of voice. He speaks at a pitch that is very easy for me to hear. I like to put on things that I can kind of listen to while I'm falling asleep in case like I'm having trouble falling asleep. I don't want to get like bored because I have ADD and all. So anyway, I want to be able to listen to somebody talking about some sort of interesting topic. But if I fall asleep, it's not going to bother me, so I'm not like trying to stay awake to listen to it. It's just there if I need it. I can ignore it or I can listen to it easily. And he's really good for that. And so I've watched that FD Signifier video, I don't even know how many times. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was in excess of 100 times, which is ridiculous. But, you know, it's been out for a while, and I've watched it a lot of times over a lot of months. Well, there's little clips of Kendrick songs in there because Kendrick Lamar was smart enough not to, like, discourage people from using clips of his music or reactions, videos of his music on social media and YouTube and stuff, because that's native advertising, right? And it worked, because when I watched that NFL halftime show, I wasn't just coming into it with what I learned out of FD's videos, because when I first watched the video, FD talks about the double entendre about A minor and or something like that. I forget exactly what he didn't say exactly what the line was. He's like, oh, you guys all know what that is. I did not. I literally did not. I didn't know anything. I was basically coming into the, like, I had seen Kendrick on like maybe SNL, and the time that he was in Dr. Dre's halftime show. Okay, like, uh, I I was really unaware, and so I'm a curious person. I'm interested in the music, so I started listening to some of the songs, and a little bit of the back catalog, just for reference. uh, Listening to other people's takes on things, because I always think it's a good idea when you're watching a video about something you don't know about, even if it's someone you trust, it's a good idea to get like a few other takes on it, because they may have a bias, or they may have a take that I wouldn't necessarily agree with if I had more context. Or it's always a good idea to get more background on something, so, and not just take what one person says as the gospel truth in relation to basically anything. But so then, they're saying, oh, he's going to be the Super Bowl uh, performer. And I'm like, well, I better go back and like listen to like all of his greatest hits and stuff, so that I'm at least familiar with them. So, whatever he plays, I'll have an easier time kind of getting what the references mean. One thing that FD says that I clearly see is the truth here, that Kendrick is the kind of guy that you have to watch several times or listen to several times to catch all the layers and references and things. It's very like intellectual, which I'll come back to that. So then, of course, he comes out and he does this performance that really doesn't have a lot of the back catalog. I guess I should have listened to the new album more, but it was still really, really impressive, even though a lot of the songs I'd never heard before. The performance was so impressive. I mean, the amount of choreography that man had to do while rapping. I was a choir girl. Like, I know what it is when you have basic choreo and try to keep your breath right. I was like stunned at his literal rapping skills. And, the choreography was incredible, the costuming was incredible. And I caught some of the references, obviously the big references, that everybody caught. But it was fun going through and watching other people's takes on it, and getting little pieces that, oh, I didn't catch, or, getting a different perspective on it. I've seen some like, oh, well, it wasn't radical enough. And then I've seen people who were like, it's too radical. And I've heard, my take on it really is, I thought he threaded the needle really well. I thought he did a great job of putting the radical messages in there, so that people who knew saw it and felt vindicated and validated. And that they were subtle enough that they could be read different ways if people didn't want to read it that way, or didn't think to read it that way, or know to read it that way, which made it more broadly appealing. Because, I mean, you're talking about a Super Bowl performance. You can't really be like super authentic and real when you're, part of this huge corporate machine. I mean, the amount of advertising involved in the Super Bowl on every level is disgusting, And so to be on the Super Bowl means at some level there is a compromise of values, if you really have those radical values. But, I could see an argument also for how important it is to make these ideas and these images and these sounds accessible to people no matter where they are. I wouldn't have the childhood that I had growing up listening to Snoop Dogg Listening to Snoop Dogg when I was so young, watching the video, he was wearing a hat that has a pot leaf on it and they blurred it out. And I could not figure out what it was that was blurred out there. I didn't understand. Like that, I didn't get weed references, but I still loved Snoop Dogg. I remember loving Snoop. I mean, I loved Crisscross. Uh, there was a lot of rap. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I listened to like weird rap is what I end up listening to. You know, Dungeon Family or D12 or like um, Just a Band from Kenya. They are so good. I don't know how they're not world famous. Like seriously, like some of their music is like amazing. That's not, and I never quite understood why it was that I connected so well with that with the music of black people because growing up I didn't know any American black people really. Like there weren't that many people who were black in my community and most of them were mixed race or adopted and had white parents. And, but I did have an African mother and father and brother and brothers and sisters. My brother made friends with a boy from Africa whose parents, well, his dad had come to go to the local college. And our church sort of supported him and sponsored him. And so, you know, I would go over there too. It was this whole old farmhouse that they had been allowed to fix up and live in for basically free. And it was by a big cow pasture. And I remember the boys, you know, these two little black boys and then my little pale as hell skinny white brother running around in the cow pasture. And Mama Marilyn and I sitting there on the porch while she's doing my little sister Lindsay's hair. So I had some exposure to black culture, but it was a sort of different way of experiencing it, you know? And I also realized when my brother started listening to Bob Marley, when like we were both out of college and we both ended up like being roommates for a while before he settled down and got married and all that. And he was really, really into reggae and, you know, like the most obscure reggae he could find, like the Bob Marley songs that you've probably never even heard of. They're so weird and obscure. He didn't want to listen to like the greatest hits. But I did. I listened to all of the things, the weird stuff and the mainstream Bob stuff. And there's a song called Punky Reggae Party that's on the like Legend Greatest Hits album. And it changed my life in a way because it explained to me what it is, why there was a connection between the punk rock kid from West Virginia and this, you know, black music and black culture. It explains, you know, what it is we have in common and why we are in community. And I don't like Kanye West music, I guess, is my, I just became mostly disinterested in mainstream American rap when it shifted from being the gangster rap to the conscious rap, which is strange because like I do like some conscious rap like artists. That's not something that I don't ever feel a response to, but I just, at Lil Wayne too, I guess, just didn't really do it for me. You know, the style of rap that was broadly acceptable in the oddies and the 2010s just broadly didn't speak to me. I tried to listen to it and I just felt like, nah. Does it? And I guess I didn't have anyone, kind of bringing me in on any of what the best rap out there was. I didn't have anyone close to me who was exposing me to the best rap. And vicariously, I guess that's what FD did here. Thank you. I didn't know that Kendrick was the sort of style of gangster rap almost that I like, and that it was that intellectual, which I absolutely adore that. I love smart rappers so much. I love it because I don't hear lyrics. I can't hear lyrics, so I have to look it up. And when I occasionally am able to piece things together without having to look it up, and it's like super clever and inventive, it's a wonderful experience. Like I said, the way I experience music is just different, and in some ways better, maybe in some ways worse, probably. I don't know. I don't have any point of reference for it. I've never been a fully hearing person, And of course, there's the connection of my love for marijuana. Now I'm a medical marijuana patient. It's very like normal and almost boring. But back then I have ADD and I have terrible insomnia from the ADD, and weed was my like panacea for that. And so I essentially started self-medicating once I got out of college. And so, that made me feel a lot more deeply connected. I did, in college enjoy the occasional smoke, but it wasn't like a way of life, which it is. It is in a lot of ways for me. Because, back when it was illegal, it was very scary to think about a cop deciding that you looked wrong and deciding to search your car because they detect the odor of or whatever. And I don't think people really understand or think through the implications of the fact that Nixon wanted to kind of do this war on drugs thing in order to suppress black people and hippies. And kind of like what I said before about how when I was growing up, all the counterculture kids were called skaters. That's what he meant by hippies. He didn't just mean people who would have self-identified as hippies. He meant people like my parents, who to this day will insist they were not hippies. They were freaks. I'm like, all right, well, everybody else seems to think that you were hippies. You had long hair and you went to a lot of rock and roll shows and very flower child aesthetic. But sure, they were freaks, not hippies. But he still meant them. And what he meant is white people who challenge his, desires, his policies. I know 100% that the bigoted, powerful white men are more horrible to people of color than they are to people who are not of color. Whether we're queer or not, whether we're liberals or not. But there is still a very sincere anger that conservatives feel towards people like me who could be normal but aren't, because I'm not gay, but I am a romantic. And, well, you could just get married anyway. No, I couldn't. It would be hell for me. It would feel so wrong. Like, if you're straight, I want you to imagine what it would be like if you were forced to marry someone of the same gender. That would be like what it would be to be married to anybody for me. Like, if they expected me to be romantically in love with them. Like, I could have a relationship with somebody who understands that I'm a romantic and I'm not going to be able to give them any romantic affection, but I am so off topic. Sorry. I mean, I am smoking weed. But that's not fully unrelated, because part of my reticence to return to exploring rap music, contemporary rap music, is part of the reason I sort of drifted away from listening to that stuff is the homophobia and misogyny really started getting to me. And I love punk rock. I love Bad Religion. I'm Christian and I love Bad Religion. I'm Christian and I love System of a Down. Like, I am perfectly happy to listen to art that espouses views that I don't agree with. But bigotry is just different, you know? The way the rap community acts about women, femininity, people who aren't hard enough, it's fucking stupid. And it frustrates me. And sometimes I just, like to not listen to music that is like super bigoted. But, how much can we separate the art from the artist? And Kendrick Lamar, as far as I can tell, is not immune from some of the biases that are common in the genre that he has devoted his life to exploring and creating amazing works of art in. I have no doubt that he is talented. I have no doubt that I could listen to all his albums and love them and really enjoy that. But do I want to have another problematic fave? Don't I already have enough problematic faves? But then again, what is purity? Like I said, Kendrick Lamar is threading a needle. He's threading a needle between authenticity and authentically showing the Black experience and being a corporate stooge. And that has led to some cringe associations. I've seen, discussion of that. I don't know the answer. I definitely think there's value in what he's doing. I am grateful that he is making his art available to everyone broadly. So people who would never get to hear these ideas and these way of thinking and this, this culture and this art, they will have an exposure. They will have if people who relate to it will have something that they can hold on to. That's one thing I can say about Madonna or Lady Gaga. Definitely there's some corporate stoogery in there. But they're out there making, queer affirming gestures repeatedly through their careers. And I know that the closeted kid who lives in West Virginia or wherever in the backwoods and never gets exposed to anything that affirms them will hear those messages. when they're played at the Super Bowl, because everybody watches the Super Bowl, and that literally might be the only time they're ever validated in their entire life. So there's value in Kendrick, but is Kendrick valuable to me? That's the question. And I don't know. I've talked about it for half an hour and I don't know. But I thought it was an interesting discussion and I wanted to have it, so here we are. And I had to smoke weed through it for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I think I'm cool. Kimmy will say hi. I want you, baby. Won't you kill me? Aren't you the best baby? Yes, you are. You're best baby. Oh, look at Kimmy. Sorry, I know that camera works terrible, but she's the only animal around. I don't know what's going on with that. I gotta go find out, I guess. So take care of yourselves, family members. I'll talk to you later.